Something frightening is happening in America, something that coils in the quiet corners of our national consciousness, a truth no one seems willing to admit openly, and it requires your undivided attention right now. What I am about to share with you, touching on the events surrounding Charlie Kirk, what I have said, and what remains a deeply unsettling, unspoken reality, may fundamentally alter how you perceive the concepts of free speech, courage, and what it truly means to stand for something in these turbulent times. I urge you to stay with me until the very end, because I will unveil a perspective that few are offering, and it could prove to be one of the most critical pieces of information you hear today. This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. Before we delve deeper into this difficult subject, I want to ask you a question. What city are you watching from? Please take a moment to drop its name in the comments below. I want to see a tapestry of voices from across this great country and even from around the world, because this message isn't confined by state lines or city limits. The principles at stake are universal, and your voice, your presence here, matters profoundly, no matter where you call home. And if you, like me, believe that clarity is the most valuable currency in these chaotic times, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. A message like the one you are about to hear rarely finds its way through the noise of mainstream discourse, but it might be precisely the word of encouragement or the dose of truth that you or someone you love desperately needs to hear right now. I can promise you this, by the time our conversation concludes, you will grasp a reality that most people will actively refuse to believe. You will see a side of the events connected to Charlie Kirk that is being intentionally obscured, hidden from public view. This understanding will not lead you to despair. Instead, it will offer you direction, hope, and perhaps even a roadmap for how we should all conduct ourselves from this day forward. If you are seeking courage in a world that promotes compliance, if you are thirsting for truth in an ocean of spin, and if you truly want to comprehend what is at stake for our future, you have arrived at the right place. We will walk through several points, each one building upon the last, laying a foundation of understanding. I will explain what I said, the reasons behind my words, the reactions they provoked, and how this entire episode reflects a much deeper, more dangerous current flowing beneath the surface of our society. And at the very end, in the sixth and most crucial point, I will reveal what is truly happening behind the curtain, a truth that is rare, essential, and being deliberately suppressed. Let us begin with the facts of the incident itself, the catalyst for this urgent conversation. The event in question occurred on what was supposed to be a day of vigorous debate and civic engagement. On the 10th of September 2025, Charlie Kirk, the founder of the organization Turning Point USA, was speaking at Utah Valley University. He was there as part of his American Comeback Tour, addressing a crowd of students and community members. In the middle of the event, an unthinkable act of violence shattered the afternoon. A shot rang out. The initial reports, which flooded news channels and social media feeds, stated that he was struck in the neck. He was then rushed to a nearby hospital in critical condition, and later, the nation received the grim news that he had died from his injuries. The immediate reaction was a tidal wave of shock and grief. It poured in from every corner of the political spectrum. Presidents, public figures, and business leaders all expressed their condemnation and sorrow. Many called it what it was, an act of political violence, a heinous attack, not just on a man, but on the very principle of free expression. Prayers and thoughts were offered for his wife, for his children, and for a nation grappling with a wound that felt both new and terrifyingly familiar. If you are watching right now, and you believe that the unvarnished truth is more important than the deafening noise of opinion and propaganda, I want you to type the word truth in the comments. That is our shared goal here today. Not spin, not half-truths, but a clear-eyed pursuit of what is real. I know that so many of you watch the news and feel a profound sense of manipulation. You listen to the anchors and read the headlines, and you can't shake the feeling that you are being played, that a narrative is being constructed for you. You find yourself wondering how much of what you are being told is reality, how much is designed to stoke fear, how much is a calculated attempt to assign blame, and how much, if any, is the simple, unadulterated truth. That feeling of doubt, that heaviness in your spirit, is not a sign of cynicism. It is a sign of wisdom. It is a righteous and necessary burden to carry, for it is the very thing that helps us see clearly when the fog of chaos descends. In moments like these, I encourage you to use a tool that has helped countless others stay anchored. I call it the 31-Day Daily High Impact Planner. It is a simple concept, one sheet of paper per day where you take a few moments in the morning to write down what truth you want to seek that day, who you want to pray for, what small act of courage you will show, one act of kindness you will perform, and one new thing you will learn. This simple ritual keeps you anchored in purpose because when chaos comes, it's so easy for our purpose to be lost. But with purpose, with that quiet internal clarity, you will find a strength you never knew you possessed. Before we move on, I have been thinking about how I can better serve the seniors in this community, the pillars of wisdom and experience among us. I have decided to create a new application, and I am torn between two focuses. One would be on health and medication support, helping manage the complexities of wellness, and the other would be on financial safety and scam defense, protecting hard-earned savings from predators. Which of these two do you feel is more important right now? Please comment either health or finance below. Your feedback will be invaluable in helping us understand your most pressing needs and how we can best support you. Now, what we have just discussed is the background, the tragic event that set the stage. But we are about to go much deeper. Do not click away, because the sixth point I will share will open your eyes in a way you cannot anticipate. It may force you to reconsider things you once thought were certain. If you care about the future of America, about the legacy you will leave behind, and about the values you want to be remembered long after you are gone, you will listen intently until that final moment. Listen carefully, because words are never just words. They are the vessels of ideas, and in times of crisis, they carry immense weight. When the news of Charlie Kirk's tragic death broke, I made a statement that many of you saw circulating online. I said, "This shows what we're facing. Free speech is under direct attack, and if we do not recognize it now, we may lose it forever." Some people praised the sentiment, seeing it as a necessary declaration. Others, predictably, twisted its meaning, attempting to dilute its power or reframe it as a partisan cry. Some even tried to silence the very essence of what was being said. But the truth is, my statement was not merely about politics. It was about something far larger, something that touches the life of every single one of us, in every community, in every home across this nation. Unless we are willing to confront this larger truth together, what happened on that day will simply keep happening, manifesting in different forms, again and again. Do you truly realize the foundational importance of free speech? It is not just one freedom among many. It is the backbone that supports every other liberty you cherish. Without the freedom to speak your mind, your freedom to pray becomes a silent, private affair with no public witness. Without it, the future of your children is not theirs to create, but is dictated to them by those in power. Without it, truth itself, the very concept of objective reality, can be deemed illegal. Take a moment and let that sink in. Imagine your grandchildren growing up in a world where they are meticulously taught what they are allowed to say, how they are permitted to think, and what beliefs are officially sanctioned. That is not a future, it is a prison constructed of unspoken thoughts and enforced silence. Let me ask you this, and I want you to share your answer in the comments. What is one thing you would never want to lose the freedom to say? Think of that one principle, that one belief, that one simple truth you hold in your heart. It could be your faith, your convictions about family, or a deeply held moral value. Write it down below. Because the moment you declare it, you anchor yourself to it, and no power on this earth can easily take that away from a person with a declared conviction. But here is the part of the equation that no one wants to admit, the uncomfortable truth that lies beneath the surface. Charlie's tragedy was not just about one man being attacked, it was a clear and terrifying warning sign. It was a signal that when speaking the truth becomes dangerous, the people who speak it become targets. When courage is punished and integrity is mocked, silence becomes the law of the land, not by decree, but by a culture of fear. That is precisely why my statement was not a casual observation or a random comment. It was a warning, a sounding of the alarm. And I will say it again with all the conviction I can muster. If we do not stand up to defend the truth now, it will vanish into the night, without a sound and without a chance of return. Have you ever noticed the predictable pattern? The moment someone speaks with genuine boldness, two reactions emerge simultaneously: admiration and fear. People love to watch a courageous person speak the truth, right up until the moment the consequences arrive. Then they take a step back. They retreat into the shadows. They whisper to themselves, "That's not my fight." But let me ask you, if this fight is not yours, then whose is it? If you do not stand now, then when will be the right time? If we all stand back today, who will be left to stand for our children tomorrow? Many of you watching are in your 60s, 70s, or 80s. You have the gift of perspective. You have witnessed decades of profound change in America. You have seen promises made and promises broken. You have watched institutions rise and seen them crumble. You know what real courage looks like because you saw it in your parents and grandparents. You know what fear feels like because you have faced your own trials. And you know deep in your bones when you are witnessing a moment where history itself is shifting on its axis. I am telling you, this is one of those moments. If you feel that knot tightening in your stomach, that weight settling in your chest, it is because your God-given instincts are screaming at you that this matters. Do not ignore that inner voice. Now, this is only the second point, and we are just beginning to scratch the surface. The question is not only about what I said. The deeper, more pressing question is why nobody seems to be asking the bigger questions. Why are we being relentlessly distracted by shallow headlines and partisan squabbles while the foundational truth remains buried? There is something very deliberate about this distraction, and if you believe it is all random, you are mistaken. That is why you must stay with me until the very end, because in the 6th and 7th points, I will reveal exactly what really happened, a truth that no one is telling you. It is not political noise. It is rare wisdom. It is life-altering, and it may be the key to helping you and your family prepare for what is to come. I want you to think about this for a moment. When was the last time you felt silenced? Perhaps it was at work, when a topic was deemed too sensitive for discussion. Perhaps it was even within your own family, among people you love, because they said, "Don't talk about that, it's too divisive." Maybe it was in your community, at a school board meeting or a town hall. Did you stay silent, or did you speak anyway? Tell me your story in the comments. Your act of courage, no matter how small it may seem to you, might be the very thing that inspires someone else watching right now. We are building a community of truth seekers right here in this space, and your words today may be the lifeline someone else needs. Here is something you can practice tonight, a small act of defiance against the creeping silence. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down the 5 truths that you would never, under any circumstances, compromise on. Keep that piece of paper in your wallet, your Bible, or your nightstand drawer. Read it every morning. Pray over it. That piece of paper becomes more than just paper. It becomes your shield. And when the world tries to push you into the gray conformity of silence, you will remember what you stand for. That is how strength begins. That is how quiet resistance grows. This is why my words about Charlie Kirk mattered, but words alone are never enough. This brings us to something deeper, something you absolutely need to hear next. What lesson does this historic moment teach us about responsibility, about courage, and about what your role truly is in this battle for the soul of our nation? That is what we must explore, because without understanding your role, the truth itself will not survive. Let's go deeper, because the tragedy of Charlie Kirk and my words in its aftermath are not just about the abstract principle of free speech. They reveal something heavier, a profound question about your personal responsibility, your capacity for courage, and your unique role in this pivotal moment of history. The truth is, if you are watching this right now, you are not here by accident. You were meant to hear this message, and before we are finished, you will understand why. Think of it this way. Every generation is handed a test. Some generations fail, some merely endure, and some rise to the occasion, leaving a legacy of strength for those who follow. We are living through one of those tests right now. The assassination of Charlie Kirk was not only a crime, and it was not only a despicable act of violence. It was a signal. It was a signal that the pressure being applied to truth-tellers in our society is reaching a dangerous, unprecedented new level. And here is the uncomfortable part of that truth. You cannot simply sit on the sidelines anymore. The luxury of being a spectator is gone. In this environment, you are either actively building a culture of courage around you, or you are quietly feeding the culture of fear. There is no longer a neutral middle ground. Ask yourself these hard questions in the quiet of your own heart. If everyone around you, your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, all stayed silent, would you still be willing to speak? If your neighbors locked their doors and drew their blinds, would you be willing to step out into the street for what you believe in? If your own family, with the best of intentions, told you that it's not worth the risk, that you should just keep your head down, would you stand anyway? These questions are no longer theoretical. They are real, they are urgent, and your answer to them matters more than you can possibly imagine. Tell me this in the comments, and be honest. When was a time in your life you had to be courageous, even when you felt afraid? It could have been a small moment that no one else even noticed, like standing up for a friend who was being ridiculed, or speaking a difficult truth in your church, or refusing to compromise your values at work, even when it cost you something. Share that moment below. The more of these stories we share, the more we all begin to see that courage is not some rare quality reserved for heroes in history books. Courage is contagious. Here is what you must understand about the nature of responsibility. It is not just about what you protect for yourself. It is about what you secure for others. It is about the future you are building with your actions or inaction today. If your children or grandchildren are watching the world around them descend into a state of fearful silence, they will grow up believing that silence is normal. If they see you bend under pressure, if they see you surrender your convictions for the sake of comfort, they will learn that surrender is the only viable way to survive. But if they see you stand, even in small ways, even when your voice shakes and your knees tremble, they will learn a lesson that no school can teach them. They will learn that truth is worth more than comfort, that integrity is more valuable than popularity. Many of you watching are in the later chapters of your life. You have raised families, built communities, held jobs, and served faithfully. But I want to challenge a lie that our culture often tells you. The lie is that your responsibility is over. In fact, your wisdom, your steadiness, and your long-term perspective may be the exact anchor that the younger, more tempest-tossed generations need right now. If you walk away, if you give in to despair, if you believe the lie that you have nothing left to give, then fear has already won. Do not let fear write the final chapter of your story. And this is where the story gets even heavier, because there is something that most people do not know yet. There is a detail about what really happened with Charlie Kirk, something connected to the deeper patterns unfolding in our society, something no one is saying aloud. That truth will be revealed later in this message. It is rare, it is sobering, and it might just change the way you see everything that is unfolding around you. That is why I must implore you, do not stop watching before you hear the sixth point. If you miss it, you may miss your chance to truly understand and prepare. Tonight, I want you to practice one simple thing. The next time a wave of fear or doubt tries to silence you, pause, take a breath, and say out loud, "I was born for this time." Repeat it until your voice is steady. Say it when you read the disheartening news. Say it when doubt whispers lies in your ear. Say it when you pray. That simple act begins to reprogram your mind to see responsibility not as a heavy burden, but as a sacred calling. And once you accept that calling, your courage will inevitably begin to grow. Tell me, do you believe you were born for this time? Write yes in the comments if you do. And if you don't believe it yet, be honest and say, "I'm not sure." This isn't about pretending, it's about being real, because honesty is always the first step toward genuine courage. Responsibility and courage are the foundations, but what do they mean in action? What can you actually do? How can you live this out when the world feels so overwhelming? That is where we must go next, because if you don't know what steps to take, your courage will remain silent. And silence, my friends, is the most dangerous choice of all. Now, let us talk about action, because responsibility without action is nothing more than a fleeting thought in your head, and thoughts left alone simply vanish like mist in the morning sun. If the tragedy that befell Charlie Kirk teaches us anything, it is this: if you do not act today, tomorrow may be too late. You cannot afford to wait for political leaders, for government institutions, or for the media to fix this brokenness. The change begins with you, right now, in your own home, with your own voice, and in your own community. Here is the warning that history teaches us time and again. The longer you wait to act, the harder it becomes. Truth is like a muscle. If you neglect to use it, it atrophies and weakens. Courage is like a flame. If you fail to feed it with small, consistent actions, it flickers and dies out. And community, the fabric that holds us together, is like glass. If it is allowed to shatter, it may never be put back together in the same way again. That is why the time to act is now, not when it feels convenient, not when it feels perfectly safe, but now, in the midst of the uncertainty. I want you to write this in the comments as a declaration to yourself and to everyone else here. What is one action, no matter how small, that you will take this week to stand for the truth? Maybe it is calling a friend who you know is feeling discouraged and offering them a word of encouragement. Maybe it is speaking up respectfully at your church or in a community group. Maybe it is finally saying out loud a truth that you have been holding inside for too long. Declare your intended action publicly right now, because when you write it down, you give it power, and you give others the courage to do the same. But let me also offer you a word of caution. Action always comes with a cost. Every step you take in the direction of truth will be met with resistance. Every word of conviction you speak will be tested. The real question is not whether you will face opposition, but whether you will back down when you do, or whether you will continue to press forward. That is why you must prepare yourself, not only for action, but also for resistance. And later, in point 6, I will reveal exactly why that resistance is increasing in ways that most people do not even realize. And I will share what no one is saying about what really happened to Charlie Kirk. Possessing that knowledge could be the difference between standing strong under pressure or collapsing when the forces of opposition come against you. Let me give you 3 practical things you can start doing immediately. First, you must build daily clarity. Every single morning, before you touch your phone or turn on the television, take 5 minutes to write down your top 3 commitments for the day. Who is one person you will encourage? What is one truth you will stand for? And how will you specifically pray for your community and your nation? This is where the 31-day daily high-impact planner becomes not just a tool, but a weapon in your spiritual and mental arsenal. The seniors who have used it consistently tell me that it gives them a sense of peace, renewed energy, and tangible courage every single day. Second, you must create safe conversations. Invite 2 or 3 trusted people into your home. Share a meal together, open a Bible, read a passage, and discuss what it truly means to stand for truth in the world today. Real, enduring courage rarely grows in large, anonymous crowds. It is forged in the intimacy of small, trusted circles. Third, you must protect your voice. Stop allowing the fear of rejection or disapproval to silence you. Every single time you remain quiet when your conscience tells you to speak, you strengthen the invisible chains of silence that are binding our society. Conversely, every time you speak, even if you do so gently and respectfully, you weaken those chains. Remember this: silence builds prisons, but courage breaks them. Ask yourself this deeply personal question. If you remain silent now, what story will your grandchildren tell about you one day? Will they say that their grandparent knew the truth, but they stayed quiet because it was easier? Or will they say, with pride in their voice, that their grandparent stood tall when so many others bowed down? This is the story you are actively writing with your actions and your silence every single day, and that story will outlive you. I know some of you feel tired. You feel worn down by the constant battles, and maybe you even feel hopeless at times. But please hear me on this. Your voice still matters. Your prayers still have power. Your actions still create ripples. You may think you are too old to fight this fight, but that is a lie from the pit of hell. You are precisely the ones who must speak now, because you have lived long enough to know the profound difference between enduring truth and fashionable lies. And if you, the generation of wisdom, walk away from the battlefield, who will be left standing? Type this in the comments if you agree, even if your hands shake as you type it. I will not be silent. That one declaration could be the first step of courage you take today, and it may give someone else the strength they need to rise. So yes, action is urgent, necessary, and possible. But now we must turn to the darker part of this equation, the active suppression of truth. Because even as you resolve to act, powerful forces are working day and night to bury reality, to confuse you, to distract you, and to make you doubt what you have seen with your own 2 eyes. This is not a random process. It is a deliberate strategy, and you need to understand it before you can effectively fight it. That is what we will uncover next. The story of Charlie Kirk is a brutal and tragic reminder of this reality. While you heard one version of events on the nightly news and you read a slightly different version on social media, there is a third version that is being quietly and deliberately hidden from you. It is the version that no one in a position of power wants you to think about. Unless you train yourself to constantly question the surface-level narrative, you will be perpetually fooled by the noise. Let me ask you something that you have likely experienced yourself. Have you ever noticed how two people can watch the exact same event, witness the same set of facts, and yet walk away with completely different and often opposing beliefs about what happened? Why do you think that is? Drop your answer in the comments. I believe you will be shocked and perhaps even enlightened when you read what others share. There is a specific psychological tactic at play here, and it is known as selective framing. When those who control the narrative cannot erase a difficult truth, they simply bury it under an avalanche of endless distractions, peripheral side stories, and emotionally charged bait. They intentionally overwhelm your mind with trivialities so that you stop asking the real, fundamental questions. The more you scroll, the more you click, the less you actually see. This is not an accident, it is a design. Think about it. How many times have you learned weeks or even months later that something you were told with absolute certainty by the media was not true, or was, at best, only half the story? And here is the trick they rely on. By the time the real truth finally trickles out, people are already too distracted by the next crisis, too tired from the constant onslaught of information, and too emotionally numb to even care. That is how lies win in the modern world, not by convincing you that they are true, but by simply exhausting your will to seek the truth. I want you to answer this honestly in the comments. What is one time you discovered the truth about a situation way too late? Maybe it was related to your health or your finances. Maybe it involved your family or something happening in your local community. Share it, because when you bring these experiences into the open, you not only free yourself from the frustration of it, but you also warn others. If you do not learn to detect the methods of truth suppression now, you will not be able to withstand what is coming next. The next stage of this process is even worse. It is not just that the truth is being hidden, it is that the people who dare to speak it are being systematically silenced. What happened around the Charlie Kirk incident is the perfect and most chilling example of this. The whispers that have been taking place behind closed doors are far more chilling than anything you have been told publicly. In point 6, I am going to reveal what no one is saying out loud, the part of Charlie's story that has been deliberately and strategically kept quiet. Once you understand it, you will see with absolute clarity why silence is never an option again. But I must warn you, when you hear it, you will not look at the world around you in the same way. This is what they do not want you to know, and I believe this insight might not only save lives and protect our freedoms, but also give you the unshakable clarity you need to navigate the chaos. This is the part of the story that is being hidden. These are the truths that people are not talking about, and it is essential that you hear them. First, the act of violence that took Charlie Kirk's life was not a spontaneous act of a lone, deranged individual. Everything I have seen, every piece of information that has trickled out from credible sources, suggests that this was a meticulously planned operation. This planning extended beyond the violent act itself. It included the choice of setting, the exploitation of vulnerabilities, and the precise timing. The security at the event was described by witnesses as surprisingly light for a public figure of his profile. The location itself was exposed. He was speaking in a large tent, offering minimal cover from the surrounding buildings. Witnesses have indicated that the shooter fired from a rooftop approximately 200 yards away from the Loy Center building on campus, a position that would require forethought and preparation. Second, the speed and precision of the attack matter immensely. At the moment he was shot, Charlie was engaged in a question-and-answer session, a moment of live, unscripted debate. This is a time when people are filming on their phones, when the audience is most engaged. According to those present, just as he was speaking about a contentious issue, a single shot struck him in the neck. That specific timing suggests something more than random chance. It suggests an attacker who knew exactly what they were doing, someone who understood that this particular moment would provoke a strong response, that the crowd would be attentive, and that the optics of the attack would be broadcast widely. The level of preparation required is deeply disturbing. Third, there has been a stream of contradictory information released by authorities, and it is my belief that this is intentional. Early reports claimed a suspect was in custody. Then it was reported that person was released.
Later, the official statement became that the shooter was still at large. This kind of confusion is not just a sign of incompetence, it serves a strategic purpose. It delays the emergence of a clear truth, it sows doubt in the public mind, and it misdirects journalistic and public attention. It has become nearly impossible to trust the first narrative that emerges from any major event. You must always watch for what comes after, the retractions, the clarifications, and most importantly, the silences. Fourth, this is not an isolated event, but part of a larger, terrifying pattern. Experts who study political violence in the United States have noted a sharp and alarming uptick in such incidents. This shooting is not an anomaly, it is a warning flare. People who have dedicated their lives to studying domestic conflict are now calling this a watershed moment, a point where the unspoken norms that protect free speech, public safety, and civil debate are eroding at a terrifying pace. If an act like this is allowed to stand without full and transparent accountability, the next one will be worse, because each act of violence that is met with silence and obfuscation makes the next act of violence easier to commit. So, what can you hold on to in the face of such grim realities? Where can you find wisdom and a path forward? Let me offer you this. First, know that your voice is both your shield and your sword. You must shield it with truth and wield it with courage. Use the truth daily, not as a weapon for arguments, but as an anchor for your soul. Speak what is real. Pray for clarity. I encourage you to even record what you have seen, what you believe, and what you know to be true. In the future, archives of personal, truthful testimony may matter more than we can currently imagine. If someone tries to erase your story or rewrite history, you will have your own record. Second, understand that true community matters now more than ever, not as a large anonymous crowd, but as small, trusted circles. When everything is confusing and official reports conflict with one another, the people who walk through the fire with you, your neighbors, your church friends, your longtime associates, they become the keepers of the truth. When you gather with them to share, to verify information, and to comfort one another, you are actively resisting the forces of erasure. And third, you must let your fear sharpen you, not paralyze you. When you feel sickened and outraged by what you are learning, use that righteous energy. Decide in that moment that you will not be quiet. Perhaps you have never written a letter to a reporter or hosted a discussion group in your home, or asked a hard question out loud at a public meeting. Begin today. Use that 31-day daily high-impact planner, day by day, to plan one commitment to truth, one small action. By day 10, you will feel your courage growing. By day 20, you will see your voice reaching farther than you ever thought possible. And now for the core truth, the one that no one is saying. Based on information from multiple independent sources close to the situation, Charlie Kirk was killed at the scene. The reports that he was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and later died were part of a managed narrative. He was fatally shot and pronounced dead upon the arrival of the first responders. The shooter remains unknown, despite reports that people were detained for questioning. No one has been charged. Those detentions appear to have been investigative stalls.
The official narrative is coalescing around a lone shooter who used a long-distance rifle from a rooftop. But more chillingly, the official narrative is being subtly shaped to normalize this kind of violence. Some reports call it a political assassination, while others carefully avoid that label. Some use the tragedy to highlight gun control, while others focus on security failures. Very few are asking the most important question: what is the moral and spiritual decay in our society that allows someone to see a person speaking truth as a target worthy of elimination? Almost none are talking about the complete absence of accountability, the creeping rot that has made silencing opponents by any means necessary seem like a viable option. This is why I said at the very beginning that what no one is saying matters more than what everyone is shouting. Your future, your children's future, and your community's future depend on whether you have the courage to see this clearly and refuse to let your voice be stolen. If you are still watching, please like this video, subscribe if you have not already, and be sure to turn on the bell notification icon. My next video will go even deeper into this story. There are parts of Charlie's story that have been deliberately kept quiet about who was funding his security, what specific warnings were overlooked, and how some leaders responded off the record in ways that would shock you. You cannot afford to miss that information. Get the 31-day daily high-impact planner and start tonight. Write down one truth you will fight for. Write down one prayer for courage. Write down one action you will take tomorrow morning. That simple routine builds a spirit of resistance within you. Comment below right now. What is the one truth you will not allow to be buried? Which wrong will you refuse to live quietly with? Write it down. We all need to see your commitment, because individual commitment is what forges an unbreakable community. May your voice never be silenced. May your resolve only grow stronger from this day forward. This is not the end of the story. It is just the beginning of your role in it. Check my playlist for more videos on this topic, and I will see you in the next one.